This is LXBN TV, and I'm Colin O'Keefe. With more and more online options and consumers considering cutting cable, the television industry is in a state of transition, with some even wondering if the industry might soon collapse. To explain why the television industry isn't going anywhere, we bring in Jonathan Allen, attorney with Rini Coran and author on the firm's TelecomMediaTech Law Blog. Jonathan, first off, and you wrote, quite a bit on this. What role do federal regulations play in extending the current landscape of the television industry?
All right, Colin, thanks. I'm glad I'm able to join you today. One of the purposes of the blog piece, and one of the items I wanted to focus on, was the role of the regulatory structure in the marketplace for video programming. And the reason for this is I think that there are aspects of the issues surrounding the regulatory structure that are kind of missed in the debate of whether or not the TV industry is going to go the way of the newspaper industry anytime soon. One of the purposes of doing so is to emphasize how the markets for the access to video programming, the markets for distribution rights, the potential new marketplace for over-the-top video providers and other new video services, that those have to be considered within a pretty expansive regulatory structure that relates to access to programming, that relates to dispute resolution, and that relates to a host of other issues that, frankly, don't impact the newspaper industry. I thought these were things that deserved a little more attention in the debate about where the TV industry is going.
Yeah, definitely. There's certainly, I think people are looking just quickly at advertising and that type of thing, but there's many more intricacies that I think are missed when you look between the television industry and the newspaper industry. But, what are your thoughts on the role direct-to-digital, kind of for lack of a better term, content will play in the future of television? For example, popular television series Arrested Development is making a return, appearing exclusively on Netflix. What, in your mind, will either incentivize or inhibit content providers, from going this route, from going direct to digital?
Well, the economics of the delivery of the programming will matter significantly, as well as the regulatory environment. I would say what we're referring to here in particular is, the delivery of on-demand types of video programming at the direction of the user. And all sorts of new video services are separate and apart from your cable provider, your satellite provider, your local broadcaster. Whether or not that type of programming is going to be made available on this a la carte basis is going to have a lot to do with the economics and the demand for the specific programming. What may make sense for a program like Arrested Development or some types of niche programming may not make sense for your NCISs and CSIs and your major network programming. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the calculus going forward is going to have to do with whether the economics make sense. And then when I mentioned the regulatory issues involved, these are some of the threshold issues and some of the the issues that, in particular, with these new services, have gotten in this industry have gotten a lot of attention. How in the world do you define these services? Are they more like a cable service? Are they more like an internet-only service? Mm-hmm. And if so, what are the benefits and the burdens of those particular classifications? Mm-hmm. All of that is going to factor into whether or not the marketplace is open to new entrants, and and it will impact whether or not these new service offerings will be economically feasible.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be very interesting. And then finally, what about the lucrative contracts that are at play? Of course, live sports is one of the last holdouts for I think for people cutting cable, and sports teams, for example, rely heavily on long-term cable contracts. What role will such contracts play in determining the future of the television industry?
Well, long-term contracts matter as long as what we're referring to is highly demanded programming. And you mentioned sports in particular. Sports is a big driver for a lot of the live or near-live viewing of video programming these days. And while you may be tempted to time shift your network primetime programming or your LOL Cats videos, a lot of folks still like to watch sports live. And so sports programming plays a big role in how the marketplace will evolve going forward. In terms of the contracts, it is a means by which video providers sometimes offer competitive advantages. We have X programming that our competitors don't, for example. But that too happens within a broader regulatory structure that impacts providers' access to programming. And then, with the licensing issues and other marketplace issues on top of that, it makes for some challenging considerations when newer services are involved.
Definitely, it's going to be a major topic in the media landscape going forward. How these things play out, which way people go. I mean, I know myself personally. I have cable right now, but it's only because I like to watch sports. So it's going to be interesting to watch going forward to see which way this goes. If it's like the newspaper industry, or if it's more like the music industry, and maybe some combination of the two.
If the programming remains compelling, there'll be an outlet for it. But what that outlet will look like, that's still in flux.
Yep, definitely. Well, once again, that was Jonathan Allen of Rini Coran and the TelecomMediaTech Law Blog. For more insight on the state of the TV industry, be sure to check out Jonathan's piece. It's at TelecomMediaTechLaw.com. And for more LXBN TV interviews, be sure to visit us at lxbn.lexblog.com. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Colin.